think of all the tragedies, right? Because God already let it spark through the dreams. Hey, I got plans for you, homie, right? But think of the adversity that guy went through, getting thrown, his brothers attempted to kill him.
Well, he got beat to a pulp.
Yeah, but they were intending on killing him. Yeah. That is traumatic in and of itself. If nothing else happened to Joseph, think about that your own flesh and blood was trying to end your life. Mm-hmm. God intended that. They threw him into the cave because one brother had mercy on him, right? And then he got sold into slavery.
The mercy is we're going to sell you into slavery.
Yeah. Think about that. Terrible. The mercy is we're going to say, imagine that. Yeah. And he went through that. And God intended that to put him in situations so bad that mercy was getting sold into slavery. Yep. Then he was sold into slavery. Just think of the existence of that. Your autonomy and your agency is robbed of you. Yeah. Just existing. That story could have ended right there, and we're already talking a tragedy that the three of us probably wouldn't want to bear ever in our life, right?
Let this cup pass.
Yeah. Then you have him going to prison, right? I'm skipping over. Then you have him going to prison, right? And that prison, every time I see it represented in illustration, I still smell the prison, even though it's on TV, but. Think about that. You're in prison in Egypt. It's got to be one of the worst things ever.
For doing something right.
Something right.
Mm-hmm. Morally. Like,
exactly.
That sucks.
Yep. And we only hear about, right, he's in prison, but prison is not just prison. You don't just sit there and just chill and everybody's like, oh man, I can't wait to get out, bro. Hey, we'll have beer. There's bullies in prison. There's violence in prison.
There's a pecking order.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And Joseph didn't really strike us as the biggest and the strongest kind of guy. So he wasn't anywhere. Okay. So I'm saying all that to say that even in his being elevated as second to Pharaoh, he was still in prison. He still saw it as a prison. I am away from my homeland. Yeah. Right. It wasn't, I know a lot of times, they give the message, and they look at that. He became the king of Egypt, right? Well, not the king, but second powerful in Egypt. And it's like a celebration. It's not a celebration. He's in a foreign land, the land away from his fathers, right? He even named his two sons Hebrew names because of his lament being away from his people. Yeah. Right. God intended all of that so that Benjamin could be saved and on, right? Yeah. And then the 12 tribes are established. Yeah. But I say all that that's just Joseph. And so think about those moments, if you're listening, think about those moments in your life that probably have never even come close to any of those moments. And you've had those moments where you're going through adversity and you're mad at God, right? Because I think all of us have been, right?
If you haven't been mad at God, you haven't hung out with him for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. John getting sent to Patmos. That's got to be awful, right? He got sent to exile away from the people he loved, away from comforts of life.
After he was poisoned, after he was burned alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was way worse.
Yeah. Right.
Just getting exiled.
No, absolutely. And I mean, even if that didn't happen, he was exiled alone. Yeah. So he was by himself.
Well, he's at a work camp. Yeah. So it's like.
Right. Mm-hmm. But he did spend a lot of time in solitude, right? Yeah. And so.
In his 90s.
We're not built for that, right? We're built for, think about that. God intended that, right? Yeah. Or otherwise we wouldn't have gotten the book of Revelation, right? And then finally, the Pauline epistles, where he wrote Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, which is one of my favorites only just now, and Philemon in prison. Because he got thrown in jail for something that happened in Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? So, in all this adversity, so much glory, right? To your point, Mel, so much glory to God has been demonstrated when these people were in the worst situations. And I would say people in prison notwithstanding, 98% of Americans have never even gone through what these people went through and gave us the glory of God. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's one of those things to think. It's easy to say, someone listening, oh, Raul, that's easy to say when you're, pontificating theology. But in real life, you know what? I'll tell you what, I lost my niece recently, very recent, 36 years old. She was a light, right? Associate vice president of a bank, which means she wasn't wasting her time, right? Yeah. She was always in school, just ambitious, loved God. Now, she was saved early on in her life when she was really young. Right now, as she got older and all that, life took over, but she was still saved. One of the things that really consoled me was the fact that I knew for a fact I'm going to see my niece again. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I did suffer a deep tragedy of a niece who adored me and adored everybody in her family, one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life, and she was taken away. And I never once questioned God. Would have I done it 5 years ago? Maybe. But, you know, because I took hold of walking in the Spirit, I've matured at least enough to know that I know that she trusted in God, so she will be with God, and I will see her one time. And I do trust that God has a reason for all things, even if we don't understand it.
Absolutely.